Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
A dominant pitching performance over the Rays could be the catalyst the Yankees needed before the All-Star break. Also, who's left on the chopping block in NBA free agency, and the United States run in the World Cup has come to an end. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Yankees took care of business against the Rays, picking up a 5-1 win that keeps New York moving in the right direction. Locked On Yankees host Stacey Getsoulias and Brian McKeon break down what stood out in the win, how the Yankees handled Tampa Bay, and why this kind of steady performance matters as New York tries to build some momentum heading into the break.
Tough night for Roycroft and Jax there.
Yeah, I think it was a situation where, once that 3-run home run was hit off Caballero, Kevin Cash and company pretty much looked at the tea leaves and saw, well, we're going up against Schlittler, who has been one of the best starters in all of baseball this year. We haven't been doing much this game. We're probably not going to do much the rest of the game. So we'll give Roycroft some garbage time. And I don't want to say he made the most of it because he gave up a home run, but that was an opportunity where I guess I understand it. You know, it's a game that the way that Schlittler was rolling, the Rays weren't doing anything. It doesn't matter if you're Yandy Diaz. It doesn't matter if you're Ronda. It doesn't matter if you're Caminero. Schlittler really had it going on, and he's had it going on all season, and he loves that fastball. And I feel like he could throw that 100 times in a game, and still the Rays and any other team won't be able to pick it up or make good contact against it.
No, honestly, it would be so fun to just have that for like a day, just the ability to throw that type of fastball. Just like it would be insane. He was eating off that. Some at bats were literally just fastballs. Yeah. Like that's how potent the pitch is. So, you got to do the whole David Price after the game locker room talk, and you got to just say, hey, you got to tip your cap. Tip your cap. What else are you going to do? I think I agree with you on the Kevin Cash situation. Like he saw the tea leaves, he saw Cam Schlittler, he saw, the odds, they know their odds, those people. And they go, you know what, right now it's garbage time. We might as well just not get anybody else. We're taking the L right now.
Right. And even so, look, I know people are upset about the home run given up to Caballero, with 2 home runs last night. I think that's a career high for him in home runs for a season. So he's utilizing those pinstripes pretty well. Maybe he's got a couple at Yankee Stadium that he can credit to that. But it happens more than you think, where a guy, comes back to his old stomping grounds and really wants to, prove the X team wrong. And Caballero did that. And I'm sure he was extremely excited about it. But even with all that aside, and I know people are upset by the Caballero home run, the 3-run home run off Griffin Jax. All told, you still have to be pleased with the output from Griffin Jax. Again, a reliever converted to a starter, 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, but the number to really focus in on is the 10 strikeouts, a career high for him. So Griffin Jax is pretty much doing just like, the expectations that we had for Shane McClanahan. He's exceeded those. I think Griffin Jax has exceeded the expectations we had for him at this juncture in the season.
I think the 2 shortened outings might have given people the wrong look or the wrong perception of him. I think it's been really successful. I think that this transition has gone really, really well for him. He's that kind of guy that has such a great repertoire that 10 strikeouts. You can see that happening each and every time out. He's really good. But, you got bit by Caballero, who probably is the least likely suspect in that lineup to get, to hit you with 2 home runs in a day.
Right.
But it happens. And I'm sure Caballero was smiling and laughing all the way inside for what he had done at the Trop. I know that everybody probably has that feeling when they're playing a team that traded you away. And it's a 4-game series. It's unfortunate to lose the first one just because the Yankees had been on such a just downtrodden path the last 2 weeks that they looked so beatable. And then, Cam Schlittler has a good day and good night.
Yeah, and we'll see if the Rays can fare better against Will Warren and Garrett Cole and whoever the Yankees have for the 4th day. Yeah.
They better, because you get that one. You get the Cam Schlittler pass. That's the get out of jail free card. All right, you lost. Everything else you've got. You have to. Okay, not you have to because it's July 7th, but you really should aim to win this series at home. Yeah. It's a division rival, and that's the team you're fighting for at the top of the AL East. You want to be able to have them in the win column. So, and also just keep that separation between you in the head-to-head, because if it's at the end of the day, you do get tied up. That head-to-head might mean that you actually get the division, just like it happened last year with the Blue Jays and the Yankees. The Blue Jays and the Yankees, the head-to-head went to the Jays, so they got the division, even though they had the same record. So, that's also important to keep that in mind. So at the worst, split it, but really you should take 3 out of 4, especially without Aaron Judge being in the lineup. Right. That's huge, because that's something that I don't think people are talking enough about when we're discussing, the Rays are ahead of the Yankees. Well, we have to remember that you have one of the best players of all time in recent memory in Aaron Judge that is absent, and the Yankees are still in the position that they are. Think about it this way. What would the Rays do if they had no junior Caminero in the lineup? That would be quite a void in a hole that you have to deal with. And I'll tell you what, in order for the Rays to win, again, this is common sense. It's easy, but they're going to have to do more offensively than they did last night. They get the jail out of free card because of who they're facing, but 4 hits and no walks, that in 1 run, obviously, that is not going to cut it.
Stay up to date all year on the New York Yankees by subscribing to Locked On Yankees on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, another Jaylen Brown type trade coming down the pipe. Before we get to that, the USA went out sad in the World Cup. The biggest stage in World Cup soccer is here, and every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, like one scored in the first 10 minutes of the biggest game in maybe your team's history. One goal can shift the momentum, like after you get the equalizer and then you give up another goal 61 seconds of game time later. It can alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now, FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. We've all seen those matches where it's scoreless for what feels like forever, and then one goal completely flips the game. Suddenly, everyone's pressing. The crowd comes alive, and the final 20 minutes becomes must-watch television. And now you get the benefit of every goal scored. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The U.S. Men's World Cup run is over, and this one ended with a thud. After a strong group stage and a dramatic win over Bosnia-Herzegovina, the Americans got dominated by Belgium in the round of 16, losing 4-1 in Seattle. Folarin Balogun was cleared to play after a controversy around his red card suspension, but it didn't matter much. Belgium controlled the match. Christian Pulisic, supposedly the face of USA men's soccer, struggled, and Matt Free's second-half mistake helped slam the door shut in a true Keystone Cops, essentially own goal. The USA has now gone out in the round of 16 in 4 of the last 5 World Cups it has played. There was real momentum, real belief, and a real chance to make history on home soil. Instead, the familiar ending showed up again. You play a good side, and you can't match up. On the diamond, the Mets and the Braves scrapped in Atlanta.
Another brutal one-run loss to the New York Mets in this 4-game series, and one that it felt like they definitely should have won the series, if not swept it. They had a 1-run lead going into the top of the 9th inning, and with a base open, they decide to pitch to Juan Soto, and he makes them pay, hitting a 3-run home run. But Matt Olson responds with a 2-run home run in the bottom of the 9th to tie it up. But then with 2 strikes and 2 outs in the top of the 10th, the Mets take the lead by 2 runs. Braves get 1 back, have the bases loaded, but then can't finish it off. And they lose by 1 run to the New York Mets in extra innings on Monday night. And just another brutal 1-run loss in this series. We'll recap everything that happened and what was a wild game over on the postcast on Locked On Braves.
And the Brewers start what could be a critical series against the Cardinals.
Right. And they're not a tremendously gifted team. I'm not slighting anybody, but what they do is they have a winning culture. Yeah, that togetherness, and I know some people joke about that, but they have a togetherness among this team, and you can feel that when you go into the locker room, when you can sense that when you're around these guys. I cover the team, you could sense that they're all pulling in one motion. Now, I can tell you there are baseball teams, and you go into locker rooms, that they're not pulling in the same motion. But the Brewers are definitely one of those teams that are just a winning team, and they get it done by being sound, not flashy. They don't have major superstars. They're going to have 1 position player playing the All-Star game as of right now. For a team that's got the 2nd best record in baseball, a game behind the Dodgers in that category in the loss column, the Brewers are going to have 1 position player.
The first wave of NBA free agency is over, but which teams still need to make a move? Locked On NBA host Matt Moore and Hayes give their take on who's still on the chopping block and what the next Jaylen Brown-like trade could look like.
Denver Nuggets are a really good pick here. I like that pick by Matt. My brain almost immediately went to the Atlanta Hawks, not because they haven't been active at all. They have made some moves, but like I look at the Hawks as this really good team, and they're still betting on internal development and growth. But like you look at the East, a lot of teams around the East now have gotten better, and the Hawks have stayed pretty much the same. So I feel like if they really want to make that leap to be a contender, they need something else there.
Hey, so I was on a run this morning, and I was thinking about the Hawks, because that's what I do when I go on runs, because I'm a loser. And so I want to ask you, Jalen, is it good for Jalen Johnson to be the guy? Or do you think he would benefit from he's good enough to be the guy, I think, long term, but would he benefit from spending 3-4 years as the maxi to an Embiid, as spending a Jaylen Brown to a Tatum, of spending that of that kind of dynamic to learn how to win before having to figure it out on his own as the number 1 guy?
No. I mean, at this point, if this was a few years ago, I would have maybe said yes, but you wasted the start of this with still having Trae Young on the team. So I think they've wasted that window to say, be the Robin for 3 or 4 years. I think now, even at only 24 years old, he doesn't turn 25 till the end of the year. But I think now that window is closed. You need to start building around Jalen, in my opinion.
Denver is an interesting one here, but I do kind of want to talk about them in the next segment. They're a team that's been mentioned as maybe a LeBron team, so that they're still maybe holding out some hope for that. The Hawks is a really interesting one because you think about those teams that were around the Hawks in the standings last year, whether it's Miami or Toronto, those teams made really big moves, right? With Giannis and Kawhi, and you've kind of got the Hawks still. Hayes, I wonder, like, we've seen the Hawks do this before where they made a trip to the Eastern Conference Finals and then kind of went all in on that team, and then they end up going backwards. Maybe the prudent thing for them is to actually kind of stand pat. Maybe they're one of these teams that should be a little bit more patient here.
No, and I do understand that if that's what they want to do this season, is especially this is the first season you're going into. There's no Trae Young. You're completely playing around Jalen, and then you make your decisions next year. That's fine. Like, I understand that as far as from a not being reactionary standpoint, but like to Matt's point, like all the teams around them have gotten better, and so as we've seen in the league, if you don't get better or other teams do, you're technically getting worse. And I just worry if that's going to be what happens with the Hawks here. And I like the Hawks roster. I like Jalen Johnson a whole lot, and so maybe that's where a lot of my concern is rooted as, because I don't want to see this team take that step back and then maybe they overcorrect when they just needed to make a minor move. Like, and that's my concern there.
Can we go back to a couple of those teams in the clips? New Orleans and Orlando. Over the last couple of years, these are teams that have had really high expectations. Orlando last year, New Orleans more so a couple of years before that. Just haven't obviously lived up to those expectations. the Magic make the coaching change. So do the Pelicans. Matt, is that enough? Is that the right thing to do? Is this more of like, let's wait till the trade deadline type of situation for those teams?
I just don't understand. I don't know what ownership wants with the Pelicans. And the answer is like, they want for the Saints to be good. And
well, what have the Saints done?
You can't look at the situation and be like, no. We just got to you're not close. Like, you're not right there. And Zion's a negative asset at this point, but Trey Murphy and Herb Jones are not. And they're still, Michael Scotto reported they're still holding on to a 3-pick standard for Trey Murphy.
I love when that came out too. It was like, they're no longer asking for 4 picks. They just want 3 first-round picks. Like, okay, well, thank you for that.
It's like, you need to move forward as an organization. And sometimes that means acknowledging loss. Like, you have to and these front offices don't want to look bad because they think that that's going to cost them their jobs. And I'm like, my guy, you've made the playoffs. This franchise has made the playoffs once in 5 years. You've been on the job for only a year. Fine. Your pick thing was weird, but that's fine. Queen's a pretty good player. Like, they're also like talking about the center thing. They're obsessed with the center thing. And Yves Missi is like sitting around and going like, what did I do?
Also, what's Derek Queen's job? Is he a power forward? Is he a 5? Like, we don't.
I guess he's a 4 now.
I'm still not even sure why they're trying to move Trey Murphy. He's a good player. That's not the guy that I would be moving for them. If I
the Pelicans are so interesting because you look at the individual pieces on the roster, and there are a lot of players you just look at and like, yeah, that Trey Murphy, good. Herb Jones, good at what he does. DeJounte Murray, when healthy, good. Zion, not healthy, but when he's on the court,
good down the stretch last year. Yeah.
Right, really good. Yeah, when he's that. Derek Queen, solid pick, like little flaw, but solid. Yves Missi, perfectly solid defense, but it just does not work together. And you would think with the fact that they do have somebody running that team that's been there less than a year, you wouldn't have so much attachment to get something done. Like, why are you so attached to these guys? You didn't draft most of them.
You can't be like, well, we would lose ticket sales. No, you have one of the worst attendance rates in the league anyway.
It's like not a problem that they have.
Like, New Orleans need a winner to get on board. And they'll show up. They showed up during the Chris Paul era. Mm-hmm. But you got to go get that guy.
Stay up to date all year on the NBA by subscribing to Locked On NBA on your favorite podcast app. Coming up, the Broncos aren't getting enough love after nearly making the Super Bowl last year. The Broncos believe they should be getting a lot more respect after a strong season, a strong offseason, and a roster that looks ready to contend. Locked On NFL host Tyler Rowland and Lauren Cox broke down why Denver may be massively underrated in recent roster rankings, how Bo Nix and the addition of Jalen Waddle raised the ceiling, and why the Broncos might be closer to the top of the AFC than people are giving them credit for.
You could point to tight end, and I think that's fair. I think I'd point to running back. But if J.K. Dobbins, Jonah Coleman, R.J. Harvey can kind of do what we're talking about the Broncos doing in general, there's no top guy who really impresses you. But the depth can win the day. I'm just so high on the Broncos. I don't understand how they're all the way down at 8.
Yeah, and I think especially when you've got an offensive line as good as theirs, you don't need elite running back talent. Like, Sean Payton can scheme it up, that line can block it up, and especially then when you also have a passing game that can win short and win deep, right? Like, not that the running game becomes like an afterthought, but for opposing defenses, they're worried about so many things other than your backs that it makes their job that much easier in that offense. So that as long as Dobbins and Coleman and Harvey are serviceable, like I think about it like with some other teams around the NFL that don't have elite running backs, but just good scheme, good lines, you can put a lot of different guys back there and have a good enough group. I think that's what we saw from them last season. And if Dobbins can stay a little bit healthier, they can get closer to a top 10 rushing team than top 15 rushing team. That's how they really make life easier on Bo Nix.
The Denver Broncos should be the favorites in the AFC, but we can't stop looking at the shiny object. The Bills, they have Josh Allen. That's so cool. Their roster is not half as good as Denver's roster. Oh, the Ravens, they have Lamar Jackson. Okay. They didn't make the playoffs last year. And they had a chance with Lamar Jackson at the end of the year and couldn't beat the dragging body of Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't get it. This was the best team in the AFC last year. I know the Patriots went to the Super Bowl, but they still gave New England everything they could handle with Jared Stidham at quarterback. If Bo Nix doesn't get hurt in a fluke injury in the divisional round, where, by the way, they took care of business against one of the aforementioned superstars, they might have a Super Bowl trophy hanging in Mile High. maybe not hanging, out for display. This is the best team in the AFC. I know people want to make their jokes about Bo Nix. He was clutch as hell last year in the fourth quarter. And yet he doesn't have the same PR that Caleb Williams has, even though Bo Nix was a better quarterback last year. But confirm your priors. Avoid the Broncos at your own risk. Undersell them, sleep on them at your own peril. I'll be betting my hard-earned American dollars on them, and we'll see where this cashes out. And finally, Cristiano Ronaldo's final World Cup ended the one way he never wanted it to. Portugal got knocked out by Spain in the round of 16, losing 1-0 on a stoppage time goal from Mikel Moreno. And afterward, Ronaldo confirmed this was his last World Cup. He leaves the tournament with 27 career appearances, 11 goals, and the distinction of being the only player to score in 6 different World Cups, but without the one trophy that always stayed just out of reach. Ronaldo said he gave everything and left with a clear conscience, while Portugal's coach called him an icon and an exemplary captain. Hard to argue. It wasn't the fairy tale ending, but one of the greatest players the sport has ever seen. This was his final World Cup chapter that still came with tears, applause, and a legacy that was already secure on the pitch. Coming up, the World Cup knockout round rolls on with Argentina back on the big stage. Major League Baseball rolls through a full July slate, and the WNBA spotlight shifts to Dallas and New York. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Presents Locked On Sports Today.